growth is not always, I don't think that's the thing we should strive for, to be honest, because you can have a massive community that doesn't really lead to. So why are you building the community? It all boils down to that. Where should it influence? If it's a product community, where should it influence in the funnel? Is it top of funnel? Is it bottom of the funnel? Like, where are you hoping that community, as a side effect of all of the goodness and the value and everything that happens in there, where should that side effect reflect on in terms of the business?
Welcome to the Community Unlocked podcast hosted by Helena and Olena, where we have in-depth conversations with top-tier community leaders and growth experts. Our goal is to provide you with concrete and actionable advice to help you learn about building, launching, and growing your community. Today, our guest is Anamaria Dorgo, a learning experience designer, facilitator, and the head of community at Butter. With degrees in psychology and human resources, she's dedicated to creating learning experiences for a global community. At Butter, she's working on building a collaborative platform for facilitators, trainers, design thinkers, educators, and consultants. In her spare time, Anamaria oversees L&D Shakers, a global online community for learning and development professionals, awarded the Silver Learning Give Back Award in 2023 by the Learning and Performance Institute. As a part-time consultant, she partners with organizations to build internal learning, practice, and innovation communities. Hi, Anamaria. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hi, you two. Thanks for having me. I am doing well. Really excited to chat with you two. It's been a while since, well, I think we've never been in this formula, so I'm happy to chat. Thanks for the invitation.
We are very excited to have you here and very excited to learn from you in this new format. So let's just begin. And my first question for you is, what was your journey to community building actually like?
It was very unplanned and very squiggly. I didn't plan to end up here. I was on my path to climb the career ladder in HR, coming from HR business partnering and learning and development. And I was going towards hopefully head of L&D and then vice president, director, whatnot. So I was on that path. And at a certain moment, I was working in a Dutch startup as the only learning and development professional in that space. And so at the nudge of my manager, I reached out to other L&D managers in other startups here in Amsterdam. And we started what we called back then a working group, a meetup once a month to sit together and learn from each other. That was the purpose. That was before COVID. And now that community, we call it the community now. It's a global community of practice for learning and development professionals. And it was the thing that kind of catapulted me into this community building world. And so through that work, I landed on the radar of the Butter team, which is where I am right now. And I'm leading the community project, the Butter community project. So yeah, HR learning, passion project. And now I kind of made that passion project, I turned that into my job.
As we have already said in this podcast, and as you just confirmed, you have built two communities and you are still leading two communities. So the next question would be about the main difference between the two. So there's the learning and development communities, the L&D Shakers, and then there's the Butter community.
L&D Shakers, it's a community of practice that doesn't belong to anyone. It's not associated or affiliated to any product or service, and it also does not belong to a person. I am the initiator, but we have a core team of 40 plus people that are driving the community forward in terms of all of the interactions, the activity, everything that's happening within. It's also not registered. It doesn't exist. It's not a non-for-profit. It's not a for-profit. It's not a legal entity. It's a game. If you want, except it's very serious, and we're all spending a lot of time and energy there, and we're taking so much out of it. So that's L&D Shakers. It's specifically designed for folks that are working in learning, both within organization as well as consultants or edtech CEOs and so on. And the Butter community, although it's a community that anyone can join, as the name says, it's a community that revolves around our products, the virtual workshops platform. And so we attract, to a certain extent, similar crowd. Actually, there are a lot of folks that I know that are in both communities. The L&D Shakers, it's more centered towards a role, whereas the butter community, it's more centered towards the art of facilitation or the craft, the skill of facilitation. When it comes to roles, these people can be anything from a freelance facilitator up to someone that designs cohort-based courses in an agency, UX agency, for example, or an academy. So everything between coaches, educators, community builders, and so on, anyone that basically runs virtual workshops. It's a hybrid community. So we welcome both our users, they're invited to join us, as well as non-butter users, folks that want to improve and get better and hone those facilitation skills. That's the main difference when it comes to the spaces.
Then my follow-up question here would be, because you built both communities basically from zero to, I don't know how, thousands people right now. And what is the main difference compared to like this basically the project which is coming from heart and also like product company?
Similar in certain things and definitely different in others. When setting them up, that's where I felt the biggest difference was. L&D Shakers, it surged at something very small. It wasn't supposed to be what it is today. There was no big strategy behind it. Even right now, like, we don't work with a strategy. We don't have goals to achieve. We don't track things. We're focused on value for the members. So fun, learning, events, projects, and so on. The community started really small. We started offline. It grew very organically. There was no promotion around it. We didn't talk about it. So it was a very slow, steady growth at the beginning, right when we started it, which was totally different with the butter community because we knew that we wanted to build a community. I already knew what a community was, what it should look like, what good looks like. We knew what we wanted it to bring to us as a business, what we are hoping the space would bring to the members themselves. And so we went about it very strategically. We had really tight deadlines. And when I say strategically, we looked at both how do we create that space, but also how do we talk about it? How do we make sure that we launch with a boom, that there is a lot of excitement around that and a lot of buzz, and we reach many people in a short amount of time, which was totally not the case with L&D Shakers. That was not on our agenda. So the start was very different. Nowadays, they're quite similar because both of them are learning communities and community of practice. But the butter community, it's still a community that where we take a lot of insights with regards to our product, and it's our way to keep close to our users as well. So that presents a set of activities and also a set of challenges and different dynamics than what we have in L&D Shakers. We don't have that part there since it's not a product community.
Another question to you, if you can reveal the details how the butter community was built, because currently I think it's a top benchmark for many companies, and it's so interesting to know step by step, like, okay, I started with these assumptions, then it was transformed there. Just give us some tips and practical advice.
Pleasure. So when I joined the team, when I joined the butter team, they knew very well what they wanted the community to achieve. And I have to say that those goals haven't changed in the past 2 years and a half. So we still know where the community belongs in our company strategy and in the goals and in the way we develop the product. And we set out with 2 goals. That's what I knew when I joined. They told me, we want to build this community, and we want it to be both a space for us to keep close to our users and learn from them. So that to make sure that we are continuing to build and design this product around their real needs and get a lot of feedback and insights. And on the other hand, we want the space to be about exquisite, excellent virtual facilitation. We want to talk about standards. We want to work with really great experts in the industry. We want to give folks the opportunity to talk about good facilitation, to see examples of it, in general, to educate and practice and get better at it. So that's what we knew at the beginning. My approach to community building, also because I started with L&D Shakers, it was an interesting school, if I can say that, because no one had any idea what we were doing. So there's a blessing in not knowing what you're doing. And the blessing in not knowing what you're doing is that you ask people. So I really learned how to build community by asking the members. It wasn't about me as a leader, etc. And probably once you know, I noticed that tendency with Butter. I was like, oh, I need to, and I prepared a strategy and with steps. And you have this tendency to, I'm now in charge of this, so now I run with it, and I'm going to do this and that and that. And luckily, I had the experience with L&D Shakers to teach me that no matter how much I sit at my desk to try to plan something, we need to bring the members in. So my first step and the way we've built about our community is constantly with the people, with the members, with the people we've been building this with. First step was to approach both our users, send them emails, we invite them into, this was hand-picked people. So we looked at our user base and we're like, who are really excellent, stellar, brilliant facilitators? That's their craft. That's what they're doing. We send them an email. We told them, we're building this thing. Would you like to give us a hand and be part of the, we were calling them community shapers, helping us shape the space. But then we also went out and we built a list of our, let's say, heroes. When you look at the facilitation space, who are the experts, who are the influencers, who are the absolute baddest people in this space. We made a list and then we actually went and we approached them like on LinkedIn. Hi, I am this person. I'm building this thing. We would love for you to join us in this process and help us figure it out. And I think we approached about 100 people, maybe a bit more. 80 people came back, both external and users. They came back and said, this sounds exciting. That's intriguing. I want to know what you're building. And at the end of the day, we had 60 facilitators that joined us for a series of 2 workshops. We run them 2 times. So we had 4 workshops in total, where all we did was explore what that space, the vibe, should look like, what value should happen in that space in order for these people to spend time there, because we're not the first and also not the last facilitation community in the world. So how are we different? Like, what is different about the Butter community? So we planned those workshops with a smaller group of people, like people that were really close to us, some of our super users. We designed those workshops, folks attended the workshops, and we were left with basically massive mirror boards with sticky notes. Many ideas, many insights, many thoughts. We collected, we structured them all. And as a result of that, we knew how to design our community. We're hosting our community in Circle. That's where it lives. And also, we also knew what type of the values, our community values, as well as code of conduct, like the way we behave in that space, it came from those workshops. We went as detailed as to actually use their words. If you look at our community values and like everything that has to do with the foundation of the community, you will find many of them are ad literam things that we took from those sticky notes. Less ego, more learning, for example. But someone said that and we thought that's brilliant. We set up the thing in Circle. While we were doing that work in Circle, setting up the spaces, the resources, we were cozying up that space. We made sure to keep this amazing group of people that already spend so much time, insights, energy with us in a Slack group, so that we started introducing each other, we were sharing resources, connecting with each other, just staying in touch. And then when we finished cozying up, painting our community in Circle, we invited them in. So that was, we constantly talk about, okay, we're inviting our community shapers. And then we had a second onboarding, which was the first cohort. And then we had our final official community launch. Now, what was that first cohort you're asking? We basically talked about this process on social media at every single step. We are building our community. We are workshopping with these people. These are recaps from the workshops. We are now taking the time to make sense of all these sticky notes and ideas. This is now what we learned. This is our community values. So everything we've built, every single step of the way, we talked about it. If you want to build in public, we put things out there, and every single post came with, if you're a facilitator and this thing we're building right now, it's interesting to you, drop your email here to have VIP access before everyone else into that space. So the second cohort, I think we had around 700 emails, 650, 700 emails interest in that waiting list. So that was our second cohort. And then we launched with a boom. Obviously, we're all about workshops and events and synchronous learning experiences. So we launched with a 1-day conference learning experience, async in Miro, and synchronous sessions from experts. And that's kind of how we opened up the doors to anyone to join the community. So those were kind of like the steps before launch or up until the launch.
Amazing. And thank you so much for such a true step-by-step instruction. So just to summarize a bit, you really took the approach of building with and for the community and valuing the core members or the shapers, and not only making them feel, but actually showing them that they have been at the core of the process. And then the next step would be to share all the learnings and kind of continue sharing over and over what you have learned, what you have built based on the learnings, and inviting others to join and contribute. So moving on from that, I'm curious, you said L&D Shakers, there was no strategy, it was all organic growth. So when did you start seeing organic growth in the butter community?
I would say if we think about growth in the sense of, so when we look at growth, I think people that are joining our community, like they're actively creating an account to be in Circle in the forum. But at the same time, because our community is free and a big part of our community are events, our events are not gated, meaning we are not only promoting them in that closed circle space. So they're promoted there first, but we're promoting them all over the place on LinkedIn, social media, speakers, social media, and so on. So that's also growth for us, because they are and still today many people that attend the events, but they're not part of the circle of the forum. So they don't have an account there. They don't spend asynchronous time there. So I think we learned very quickly to detach this idea that our community is linked to the platform. As today we're looking at the community, yes, there's the element of the platform, but we have the element of the events. So our people, on one hand, are new people joining our events every time. Do we reach new audience? And at the same time, do we see some familiar faces? Meaning, are we creating also enough value for folks to come the second, the third, the fifth, the 10th time and make friends there and stick with us? So we saw that straight away. We saw that organic growth straight away. And we went on working with some brilliant facilitators from within the community, guests that we had. So we constantly made sure that whatever happens in those sessions is very valuable to the target audience we were building with and to our community members. And so we saw that organic growth all the time. But I mean, it's very hard to say whether that's, because what is organic, right? Is it that we don't pay ads or something, but we do talk a lot about our community. So I don't know, does that count as organic? No clue. We do talk a lot about that, and our members talk about the community. And so that kind of leads to new members joining us regularly or joining our events. And maybe one thing that's important to add here for your audience and for folks starting communities, when I joined the team, they had already, if you like, almost MVP the idea of our community. So what they were I joined the team in June or July, and can't remember the year because it's after COVID and all the years are 2 years and a half ago, basically. But they started like 6 months before hosting our butter mixer event, which are still the staple event of the community. So every second week through LinkedIn, they were hosting an event in butter with amazing speakers. So when they saw that people are starting to come back and those events are growing and more people are joining, and not only they're joining, but you would see familiar faces, they said there's something there. So this organic growth was like, it's very natural for the butter community. Because it's not only about the product, if you notice, like I rarely talk about the product because it's a hybrid community. People find value and they want to spend time with in there, even if they're probably not using the product or they're using it very little.
What is the healthy community growth, if you can define it?
I don't really know if there are any parameters there that people should follow. Like, I don't want to say something that people, Anamaria said this and that, because I have no idea what the industry is. But for me, organic healthy growth means, is there, just like with products, is there word of mouth? Like, are people landing into your community because they heard from someone else that it's a cool space? Are people buying your product because they saw it in someone else, or someone else told them, make a butter account, that's what you need? So I think that is healthy growth, healthy organic growth. Is that 20 people, 50 people, 100? I don't know. Like, we all have different expectations. But when it comes to community, and I have to say, the especially at the beginning, the faster you grow at the beginning, the harder it is to really warm up, cozy up that place. And I saw a difference in the way L&D Shakers grew in the first 6 to 1 year, and how butter community grew, where you can say that we engineered it, right? So in L&D Shakers, there was absolutely no engineering of, let's start with big events, let's talk about it, let's have a waiting list. Like, there was nothing about that. And obviously in the butter community, we were a bit more strategic about it. So growth is not always, I don't think that's the thing we should strive for, to be honest, because you can have a massive community that doesn't really lead to. So why are you building the community? It all boils down to that. Where should it influence? If it's a product community, where should it influence in the funnel? Is it top of funnel? Is it bottom of the funnel? Like, where are you hoping that community, as a side effect of all of the goodness and the value and everything that happens in there, where should that side effect reflect on in terms of the business? So is it, and I think that matters, because if you're somewhere top of funnel, probably bigger is not necessarily better. The same even with even if you're top of funnel, if what you want is people to talk about you and have that buzz, they can be many, but they can't be connected to you. And so if they're not connected, if there's not this good, the community has to feel good. It needs to feel warm and fuzzy and fun. And you need to be like, oh, I've seen these two faces. And it's about people coming together. And sometimes if you take, just like anywhere, like if you go to a concert and there's 1,000 people, like, yeah, what's the effect of that? Yeah, you have a good time, but then each and one of you goes home. Whereas if you go to an intimate dinner with 12 people, and then next month you go again with the same 12, yeah, then chances are that it's not growing that far, but probably 12 people are all bringing 5 next time. Whereas in the thousands, maybe one will talk about that, or I don't know. So I don't know if I don't know what it's healthy. Healthy, I guess it means, you're growing, your new people discover you, and when you talk with them, they discover you through other members. So the moment you hear that happening, you're thinking, okay, that's the type of growth that I want to have. Members recommending members.
Absolutely. And it's very true. And I can totally agree that growth is definitely not the main thing that you should focus on, because there can be growth, but no activities, no kind of continuous engagement and fun going on. And then what's that growth? Like, what's the value of that really, apart from looking at the numbers? Exactly. And of course, I mean, I'm in the butter community now, but before I joined, I saw all the buzz on LinkedIn mainly. I'm on LinkedIn, so I saw people sharing their love for the product. And it's quite a few people, and it's like this stable group who keep sharing this kind of infectious energy that makes people curious. Okay, what is that? So it feels like those people are butter ambassadors. they love the product, they want others to see it, they want to share it with the world. So how long did that take for that group to form?
It's funny you say that, because they are real ambassadors. Means that we don't have an ambassadors program.
Okay.
Like, they are really advocating for us, real ambassadors. There's nothing engineered there. So what we do, we don't have an ambassadors program. Like, there is no scheme program where people apply and they get something. Like, there's nothing of that sort. So everything you're seeing on LinkedIn comes from just genuine connection that we've built with each other. Not only with me, with Jacob, with Chris, with Cheska, with the whole team. This closeness to users and community members, that's what that is. They're not rewarded for that. And actually, we know that word of mouth is such a driver. And sometimes we talk about how can we drive more word of mouth? And my answer is always, I have no idea. Like, how do you make people talk about you if they don't want to talk about you? Like, it's just, it feels weird. I don't know how to engineer that. That can only come from a genuine place. What we do have is a core team of members in the community. So after the community shapers, we started, and I think 2-3 months in, we really needed to have this diversity of voices and opinions in that space, in that in circle. And so we put up I just put up a post that I said, we're building our core community team. I'm looking for 5 people in the community for a 1-year assignment, and they are going to be my right hand, my support for community strategy, brainstorm and make sure that we keep this space vibrant and valuable for everyone. And amazing people applied. We ended up, I think, being 6. We're in the meantime 12. And so these people are the truly, really inner circle of the community. Like, they're in our Slack. We have a channel. They have direct access to Slack, to channel, to chat with anyone in the team whenever they want to. We often ask opinions and feedback from them, but they also know, like, whenever I'm thinking about this, I'm not sure what to do. Like, they also they're privy to my half-formed thoughts, things that I don't know how to do. And I often ask them, hey, this is happening. Like, what should we do? So they're truly part of the team. And they have also different roles, and they play by different strengths. We have 2 types of events, and they're both led by community members, by the core team. The dry runs are done by them, promotions is done by them, they're in their co-facilitating, etc. So they are the face of the community, of the Butter community, when it comes to those events. We have community curators. They source important, just in general, facilitation related resources to feed into the community. We've got Saeed, who's just this tech mind. So he's all about hacks and products and how to use butter and what do you do with it. You're laughing because we all know Saeed. And he's awesome. So he's kind of like the very tech product guy, right? So everyone kind of plays by different strengths. But yeah, the ambassadors are just people who like us and who we like very, very much.
Yes, and cherish them forever and ever, because they're so important.
So much, yes.
Usually there is a kind of huge connection between product and community, especially in the setup of like PLG companies. And in the Butter case, like, how well connected product and community, and how community influence the product?
There are definitely overlaps. Our users, Butter users, can opt into the community. They're not automatically added to the community. And also we have folks that are not using the product. So when you spend time in our community, you will find various topics, and some of them will be related to product, but not all of them. The community is, again, a direct line to our team. So people know that they can go and wish for things in the community. We have a wish list. they go there and they just give us feedback on the product, which is very valuable. And it's very easy to tag Chris and Casper, who are responsible of our product, to tag them in those posts. And we very often we take that information and feed it into our Slack. So everything that comes from the community lands in the product feedback bucket, which has several other streams, including interviews that they're doing. And then we have our intercom, which is all of the support tickets, chat. Sometimes we get feedback from LinkedIn, sometimes from direct messages to the team. So there's different streams of feedback, but the community is one stream of feedback that we get. Now, besides this kind of asynchronous, ad hoc, people can pass by the community at any time to give feedback, there's something very, I don't know, I guess we're really lucky. The fact that the community, it's a community about facilitation, synchronous virtual facilitation, which is what the tool is doing. And so we spend a lot of time as a community inside the product. Usually every single community you look at, they have some sort of type of events. But if their product is, I don't know, an app that does something, whatever, and they meet in Butter or in Zoom or whatever they meet, it's this dissociation of the space we're meeting and the product we're talking. We do not have that in Butter. The space we're meeting in, it's the tool that we talk about. So every event, it's a demo of the tool. In every event, our community can click and be like, Anamaria, this is not working. This is not opening. I don't see that. Like, what's happening? So every single event and encounter with our community through the tool, it's an opportunity for us to learn, for them to ask us questions if they don't see something, if they're like, there's a lot of insights that comes after events, but also for them to have a view of what the tool can do and what Butter is. So I think that's a very fortunate situation to be in. So I think it would be these two main streams. Feedback that we get through events, and we very often, our hosts use Butter. And I would say probably 50% of them know how to use the tool, and 50% are totally new to the tool. So even for us in the background, the people who are setting up that host for success for that event, we tap into their process. We do the dry run. They ask us things. They say, oh, I would like to create a poll. Can I do that? And I said, yes, I want you to find it. Where would you click? What would you do? So everything we're doing, like this whole prep work and the running of the workshop, is just a feedback in itself, very often from people that are using the product for the first time. So yeah, I think those are the main things that come to mind when I think about that interlink between them. And then there's obviously the very, let's say, very planned or structured way to get feedback, where Casper or Chris are actually tapping into the community to run interviews. Sometimes when we do big feature launches, we do roundtables where a group of people come, like a focus group, and we show them around. But those are more like, yeah, we have a need and we invite them in, and they're generous enough to help us with feedback.
What I also noticed in the Butter community is that these super users or the shapers or, the other groups, they actually come to those events to help out the people to run their events. They are part of the team, it's in their interest to help, which is amazing. And it brings me to my next question. You talked about ambassadors. I just mentioned how I saw it really happening, how people are really part of the community, how they're building with you. And as you said, it's volunteers, there's no ambassador program. So I'm sure people who are listening will be like, oh my God, I want this. What's the secret sauce, right? And I'm sure you'll say there is no secret sauce. And I imagine it's about, this connection and genuine relationships and showing the value to each other. And it always goes both ways. So I'm curious, what is the secret sauce, or what are the tips, or how do we go? How do I get those ambassadors? Just please tell me.
First of all, you need to have a really cool product.
Yeah, that's number one.
I'm laughing, but it is true, actually. Like butter is a product that it is fun to use. People genuinely have a nice time when they land in the tool. There's this element of surprise. It looks and feels and behaves very different than other tools out there that people are used to. So very often, even if we're talking about this kind of hardcore ambassadors that kind of are the super users and so on, but we get shout outs from folks that sometimes they take a screenshot of the waiting room. They have a call with someone. They've never heard about butter, and they take a screenshot of the waiting room and put it on LinkedIn and say, like, I had this amazing experience. I was talking to Helena, and then while I was waiting, this was this music and this whatever. So this is all so new that people like to take screenshots and our gifts and all of those things. And also we're making it very easy for them. And when I say we, I actually mean my colleagues from the product team. We make it very easy for whatever goodness happens inside those sessions to be easily shareable. That's one of the value props. We know that facilitators, they have their sessions, and afterwards they're doing this documentation. Our goal is to make that very easy for them to download stuff, to capture stuff, etc. So Butter creates GIFs for you. Any participant can download that GIF and put it on social media. Like, that is very easy. Very easy opportunity to give people the opportunity to talk about you. That was a good session, a great session. The recap of any session with the recording can be shared with a link. So the product facilitates this type of easy sharing if they truly attended a session. Beyond the product and that ease and stickiness to share something that's fun and surprising for you, I think, again, like you already said, there's no secret there. Again, there's no strategy there. But I think, as a responsible for the community, I'm very fortunate to have the whole team aware of the impact of community. We just take time. I don't know. There's users come first all the time. And it's just so real and authentic. And, we go into, like, there's probably 80% of our conversations in Slack on a daily basis are about users and their wishes and their problems and their calls and the insights and so on. So there is this genuine care for them, always an open ear. We're always there. It doesn't matter if it's me or Jacob. Sometimes Jacob, he goes to session to kind of like support them morally. If it's a new user and they have a big session, we would go there to be with them in the room. We would educate, or we would jump on a call if we have to 3 times to make sure that they feel confident in the product. It's just so, yeah. And people feel that, like, you will feel if I genuinely care for you, and humanly, you will care back for me. And in that genuinely, it's also this transparency. Sometimes, our users wish for things that, as a small team, small resources, a startup, we sometimes can't really, it's not on our roadmap. And we know that it's unrealistic to work on that in the next 6 months. And in that care and love, we also go back to them and we tell them, we are not working on this. This is a great idea. It's landing somewhere on the list, but just so you know, do not wait for this in the coming 3 months or in the coming 6 months. It's just this general transparency with, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, this is what we won't do, and why. I don't know. It's just a very human way of, because they're humans, right? And I think we're still small and we can do that, right? It's just this cozy way to talk to people and meet them where they are. And so they do that for us as well.
I think sometimes we forget, when building something, and it's all like business, product, etc. Like, we are working with people. We are all people. Let's not forget that. Let's just be real, warm and nice to each other, and it makes a hell of a difference, I'd say.
We also have a lot of, because obviously it's the Butter community, it's attached to a business. we look at numbers and we look at impact and all that because it matters, right? But very often we have conversations on activations and where do I put my resources as a community lead and the things we're doing and we're not doing and so on. And very often we have conversations about impact of certain things. And sometimes, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes the impact for the business itself is really low. So we could have the tendency to say, oh, we don't do that. But then we go and we say, is this having an impact on them, on the members? Would they find this cool or fun or useful or whatever? Will this help us spend more time with them? And if the answer is yes, even if we don't get anything, at the end of the day, we do. Because that relationship, that closeness, that like it's not transactional. I guess that's where I'm trying to go. It's not transactional. Certain things are here and there, but the community as a whole, it shouldn't be a transaction. The transaction is the product. We provide a service, you pay us for this. The community, that's not where the transaction should happen. That's where the care should happen and the connection and the realness should happen.
I couldn't agree more with you, Anamaria. Yeah. And speaking about metrics, how much pressure do you feel on the metrics side, working in community in Butter? How much flexibility do you have?
I have to say that not a lot. We do look at things. We do look at new members. We look at, again, is our in general, we call it audience, events audience. Is that steadily increasing? Is it decreasing? Is it standing still? Like, do we reach new audience? We look at those things. And obviously we want to reach new audience. Our community being an open community, a free community, a community that's mixed hybrid between users and non-users. Our community actions broadly top of funnel, and very specifically with certain users, very low funnel in retention, where we really go with our support, education, spending hours with them, helping them with the design of the session. So we're kind of like in between both those things. But mainly we're top of funnel. So we do look at things like that. How many people are joining? How many people are also showing up? So not only signing up to events, but also showing up. What is the activity in circle, in the forum? Are people posting? Are they replying? Do we get feedback? How many wishes do we get? And so on. So we look at those things, but there isn't a lot of pressure. The reason there isn't a lot of pressure is because we know that community, it's more than that. Like, there's no way for us to track all of the love and the buzz and everything that happens on social media, for example. We don't use a listening software, so we don't know how those numbers look like, for example. But we do see them. We see the tags, we see the conversations, etc. So we know that the community is doing its work and no one is questioning that. So there's absolutely no pressure to, as long as people are joining events and there's this word of mouth and we know that, we're building collaborations and we're working with other communities and so on. And I have to say there's very little pressure to convert people to users. We don't have a KPI like that. We don't have a KPI which says of X people in the community that are not users, Y percentage should turn into users. We would like that. Yes, we would love everyone to become a user, but we don't actively work towards that. That's an effect of talking to them, connecting, learning. Our main drive or our main motivation to have this hybrid community and spend time with people that are not our users is the amount of learning we learn from them. Because then you can ask, Olena, why are you not using Butter? I see you coming up to events. What keeps you from using it? And then they tell us. And that's very valuable information that we can use to improve our product or have a different strategy or work on our marketing or copy or the website and so on. Yeah, we look at numbers, but they're not a goal per se in itself.
And it really shows how important it is to share the importance of community and to have the support and understanding that it is not just like a marketing tool and somewhere where you just want to convert everyone into users. And it's really important to work somewhere or to convince someone that it is the case.
Yeah. So support from the leadership side is so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. The way what they understand through community. And also sometimes we were like, internally, like you look at things and you're like, obviously you look at sales and you look at numbers, and it's important. We're still quite small, like we're still a startup, right? We have a small team. All of those things like can make a massive difference. So internally we look at those things, and every now and then we come, and actually the beginning of this year you look at retention and look at education and so on. And we come to that table, and community is always at that table. And actually my role sits in the growth team. So I'm not detached from marketing and growth and sales. I'm in that call every single week. And sometimes it happened that we brought the community and we said, should the community now shift its focus because of the needs that we have internally? And top leadership said, no, the community is there and it serves these two purposes: insights and an expertise and advocating for good, impactful, proper virtual facilitation. So those things, the two things that were there, that were clear when I joined, they're still the things that kind of drive the community's vision forward. I don't know, it's just so refreshing to work with the leadership team where you don't constantly have to somehow prove yourself or prove your work, because they also talk to users and they also spend time in the community and they also spend time on social media, and they get to see what community actually is and does.
Wow, I can't believe it's already the end, which is very sad. We could keep chatting to you forever. Thank you so, so much for coming to the podcast, for sharing so much, so many important insights. I've learned a lot. I'm sure you've learned a lot, Elena, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this will too. So I really appreciate you and everything you do, and just keep shining, and we'll be following.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and for asking me the question with such curiosity. And yeah, good luck with this new project you're working on.
Thank you
It's
so much.
exciting. Well
Yes.
done.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day. Enjoy. Bye, ladies.
Thank you so much for listening. If our conversation resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your ratings and reviews are invaluable in helping us reach more like-minded people. You can find all our episodes and learn more about the show at communityunlocked.substack.com. See you in the next episode.